Hi, good morning. This is lesson 82 of A Course in Miracles. It's a review. So these next, oh man, it's hard for me to talk today. I've had this like lingering headache for a few days. And so what I just did is I made a cup of coffee, and I haven't had any caffeine, zero, zilch, none, for 2 months. I've had this growing feeling through these headaches. I'm like, because I don't know if it's weather changes, like pressure changes, something. It's just this like ever present. And so I'm like, maybe I'll have some coffee. I've just been drinking herbal tea for that warmth, the cozy feeling. And now I haven't even had a sip. Should I do it? It smells so good. So anyway, I just had to admit that to you. Thanks for listening. So I think I am going to do it because I also want to come into a healthy relationship with caffeine. I was talking with somebody about this yesterday because, twice yesterday this came up in different conversations in different locations about this feeling of like in our old way, like we used, like the people I was talking to, we used to feel like wee, like in our life, like we needed that. And now it's like, no, it's working against us. And I was feeling that too. I'm like, oh no, I was having too much caffeine, and went the other off, where it was like headaches for too much caffeine. And I've always kind of gone on between these extremes, like all or nothing, because for me with caffeine, it's hard to just have a little bit. And so what I'm really desiring is to be able to just have a little bit once in a while if I feel like, oh yeah, that would really make me feel really good, like a feeling of well-being. And that's what I was feeling these last few days, but kind of resisting it, like, no, it's been 2 months, don't break your streak. And I know that's something to pay attention to too, like this idea of perfectionism, where it's like, pay attention to that too. That's not always healthy. Like everything truly in moderation. It's a saying for a reason. And so I'm like, okay, I'll make some coffee. Anyway, that's not what this is about. This is about lesson 82, which is a review of 2 other lessons from like 20 lessons ago. It's a review of lessons 63 and 64. 63 says, the light of the world brings peace to every mind through my forgiveness. Lesson 64 says, let me not forget my function. So if we go back to 63, it's like, my forgiveness is the means by which the light of the world finds expression through me. And again, we're going to change forgiveness to acceptance because that's still what I'm feeling, because it told me that in one of these lessons, and it goes right back to the word forgiveness. And I no longer resonate with that word. I really resonate with the word acceptance, because even the book said to feel like you have to forgive somebody or forgive yourself means like you've condemned that person or condemned yourself. So it says, so therefore let us not condemn, and then we have no reason to even have forgiveness. And this says like, the light of the world brings peace to every mind through my forgiveness. So I'm just going to say through my acceptance. My acceptance is the means by which the light of the world finds expression through me. And it's so true. Like that's I guess why I brought this up, because I'm like accepting myself, not only for wanting the caffeine when I said I was quitting, and I'm like, I think I'm going to quit for good. Like always be aware. I almost said always be aware of when you say always or never, and I just said always be aware. You can really make yourself crazy with these lines of thinking. But I really enjoy it because it's like a continual like reorienting back to like being the witness of your life, like what you're feeling, thinking, believing, old stories, old patterns. And so everything is up for examination. And that's the phase of life I'm in. I want everything to be examined. And some people are like, God, just live already. Like, you don't have to do that. And I'm like, I know, I've been living this long, and it's time to start examining what I've, like, these patterns that run through my life, so I can grow from them, leave them behind, change. And so, yeah, I've done pretty good at just living and not paying attention to these things. And this one I really loved because my acceptance, like, I can accept myself. I can just accept that I really wanted this cup of coffee, and it probably will make me feel like good, and I might get a wee, which might make me feel wonderful for a little while. I don't know. And you know what? It's all okay. And if I choose to have another cup tomorrow, that's okay too. And then I'll just keep checking in to see, how is my well-being? How am I feeling? And before, it was just sort of like, ignore that. Must plow forward. I've got a giant project to deliver. I need all the caffeine in the world. So anyway, all that aside, I really love, like, my acceptance is the means by which I become aware of the light of the world in me. So if I can accept this, and if I can accept you, and I can accept them, just for however you're showing up today, like, what is happening with you right this moment? Are you a little sad? Are you a little angry? Are you a little frustrated? Are you just, like, wanting to lash out at people? Are you wanting to jam your shopping cart into the shopping cart return? Are you wanting to get angry at somebody who didn't return their shopping cart? Whatever it is, like, it's all okay. And then we'll continually look at that and be like, why did I feel that way? Why did I act that way? Like, examine it. It's not going to hurt you to examine something. That's what I'm telling myself. Like, it's okay to examine. And come into, we can't accept things unless we are aware of them, examine them, question, inquiry, just say, like, why am I feeling that way? Where does it show up in my body? Is my breath restricted and that makes me feel a little unwell? Well, let's feel into that. So anyway, examination, that's the word that keeps coming up with this one. I don't know why. I think acceptance. Because the things we aren't accepting, it's that resistance thing again. Like, if I'm not accepting it, it means that I'm in opposition to it, and that creates this, like, tension, this static, and that makes me feel unwell here, wherever. And so by turning to those spots that feel unwell, can be like, oh, what is that? And it starts to kind of make sense. You can either enter from the body, from the mind, but the two are kind of telling a story together. So then we have, the light of the world just means, like, everything's love, everything's beautiful. If I can just accept, like, get out of opposition and just into acceptance, everything's freaking beautiful. And there's really no problem. I was watching a podcast. I do have to say, there are pretty big problems in the world, but when I was watching this podcast, it was like a trauma healing podcast, and I've done this work and been through these trainings, and so I'm very familiar with this process. But there was a practitioner walking somebody through some trauma healing, and it was great that they shared it to the public, because that's deep, personal, very vulnerable stuff. And she was like, I just feel like there's war, like, in the world, and I'm crying every day about it, and I can't keep myself or the people around me protected, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm like, oh my God, yeah, I see that showing up in my Facebook feed a lot, don't you? Like, people just so... And I don't look at Facebook much, but I talk to my clients, and they come in through the door. Sorry, I have like something on my face. And they come through the door just sometimes feeling that way, and they're sharing it. And it usually goes back to something like that protector energy, where they were it's like they have that big protector inside of them because of feeling unsafe, usually in childhood, somewhere at some point in time when they couldn't protect themselves. And so there a protector part came in to fill that need when nobody from the outside was protecting you, right? Something inside you turns into the protector. And we have to work with that protector to really kind of call it out of that, that energy that it just persists. So it's like, well, then it gets sad, it gets angry, it gets frustrated when it has no control over things that it can't be protected from or protect others from. And so there's ways to work with that. And I feel like it's kind of relevant because the people who are caught in that state, and I say the people, but me too, who are caught in that state, it's the light of the world can't shine through in either direction, right? There's like, what light? There's just war out there. And there's a reminder, like, our inner state is reflected in the outer world. So if all you do is look out there and see war and fear and there's a lot going inside that to examine so that you can project that light out into the world and feel it come back into you. And oh man, there's just so much truth in all of that. How we feel on the inside is what we see on the outside. Because the practitioner in this podcast, for example, about the war scenario that we were kind of looking out in the world, said, well, of course there's war out there. He's like, but I just treat it like I'm in an elevator and I'm like going maybe up or down and I pass by the war level and I'm like, oh, war, okay. That's a bummer. And then he keeps going, on. But is not all consuming for him. It's just an awareness that, yeah, war exists. War is happening. What is in my immediate experience? He didn't say this. Like, what can I control in my immediate, like, you can't control out there without, like, if you have no sense of, and I don't like the word control, if you have no sense of even awareness of what's going on inside, then control, in quotes, can't be had anywhere. So, man, it's deep stuff. So I feel like it's relevant because that light of the world, you're like, what do you mean by the light of the world? And I truly think it's like the light, if we come into a place of healing, examination, acceptance, all of that, whatever's going on the inside from our past wounds, current wounds, whatever, then we can see, when that's healed, then we start to look out at the world and say, oh, yeah, there's light, there's love, there's compassion, there's people helping each other. I wouldn't be saying it if I didn't already experience it. All of those things. So, and then the next lesson, 64, let me not forget my function. I would not forget my function because I would remember myself, capital S. I cannot fulfill my function if I forget it. And unless I fulfill my function, I will not experience the joy that God intends for me. So there's different things that might crop up into our awareness throughout the day, different frustrations or whatever. And so it says, like, to use this in practical everyday life, it says, let me not use this, whatever this is, this distraction, to hide my function from me. Because it's saying my function is to be the light of the world. And these things, it's like, threaten the ego. I don't know. There's like some ego stuff here too. Because my function is to be in complete acceptance, to be the light, to reflect the light out. Like, I don't know what else to say here. My function is acceptance. It says forgiveness, but we're going to say acceptance. My function, that's all I have to do in this life, is just accept what is. That's the literal key to happiness. It makes me want to cry. It's literally all you have to do is accept what is. That's it. And some people might say, well, then you're a pushover. Like you just accept whatever anybody does to you. Well, no, because guess what? The secret is, it's a secret. Like whatever somebody is doing, and it seems to be doing it to you, there's a couple things going on there. One is just to accept, wow, they're in a lot of pain. If they're acting out of anything except love, they've got a lot of healing to do. And you can accept that. You can have compassion for that person, right? Because when we act out, like when I act out of pain or react, I feel regret and I didn't mean to do that, and I want to be forgiven, and like I wish I'd never done that. And you got to imagine those people are eventually going to feel that as well. It may take a long while to get there because you're like, oh, I know them. They're never gonna feel bad for what they did, you know. But at some point they might. Even it might be when they are finally dead and gone, and something on the other side, they're like, they finally are aware of all of this stuff because they're spirit now, and they're like, oh man, I really hurt a lot of people, and they've got a lot of learning and healing to do on the other side. So eventually it all comes around. But in this moment, you can say, man, they've got a lot of hurt. Hurt people. So you can have some acceptance that way, as hard as it is inside. And by having acceptance, you're doing a whole lot of healing for your own self. And it's, the other thing I was going to say, I have to remember because it was more subtle, more nuanced. That whole, like, if you feel like you're the victim of something, because like I said, you might be like, oh, you're just a pushover. Well, no, one thing, hurt people. And then if I'm feeling victimized, that's a pointer to look inside again, to say like, well, why do I feel victimized? Where is that showing up in my awareness, in my body? What am I thinking about when I'm starting to feel triggered? Like victimization is also can be thought of like a trigger. What's triggering you to feel like a victim? Like if you feel persecuted or judged or victimized, all of those kind of words. What is it in you that makes you feel that way? Versus just like acceptance means you're not feeling that way. You're just like, oh, that's just happening. Nothing for me to do about it. Right? But sometimes I feel like a lot of it, we just feel like we have to do something about everything. Everything triggers us into it. Like we've got to take an action. Well, that's not true, is it? It's just once you, I feel like I say you, but me too. I've practiced this. It's a practice. You just practice the non-reaction, practice the non-attachment. Just practice it, even if you don't believe it yet. Just say, I'm not going to react. I'm not, like, I start to have this thought about something, like, oh, it should be a different way. And then just be like, okay, I still feel like it should be a different way, but I'm just not going to react. I'm not going to give it energy. And that's maybe one way to think about it. Just don't give it energy. There have been times, like in school, in my massage school recently, the director of education was, we were having this kind of check-in with the class about the burnout. Like it was an intense moment back in Costa Rica. I'm sorry, I'm just going to take a sip with you guys. I haven't had it yet. Oh my God. It's been 2 months since I've sipped some coffee. Wow, that is bitter. It's Folgers Black Silk. Wow. That is enjoyable. So, thank you. That was my first sip in 2 months. Oh. Okay, I'm feeling a lot of feelings about it. So most are good. So the director was writing something. We were writing words on the board of different feelings of different things. I forget, but they were positive, negative. Well, the next round of, because we put the negative and then wipe them off and then turn that into the positive. So I won't give it all away, but that's the general vibe. And so the next round, we were talking about burnout and these deep, heavy feelings. People were some people were barely passing. So that's really big feeling. And we were about to go as a teaching assistant, grab the markers and write up as people were throwing out words. We were going to write them on the board again. And the director was like, you know what? Today, normally we write this on the board, but, and she's very in tune with energy. She's like, we're going to talk, but we're not going to give this more energy by writing it on the board, which means you're sitting there seeing the words. Like, there's an energy to continually having something in your awareness versus the absence of it. And I was like, whoa, that's powerful. I've definitely thought about that in the past, but when it was like I could see the whole room just be like so grateful, immediately, like, oh, to not have to see. They didn't even know it was coming, but it was just like that energy of like, you know what, we're not going to give it energy. The energy of not giving something energy is huge. Just practice that. That's what I mean by non-reactivity, non-attachment. Just don't give it energy. Just the practice of like withholding your energy. Oh man, I'm going to cry again. It's so powerful. Like if you, I didn't even cry the first time, but I was almost going to. So the practice of like, I love this meditation where if you feel like off balance, out of your center, like kind of out of body, like a little bit ungrounded, whatever word resonates with you of just like feeling like not yourself, do a practice. It's powerful, where you just sit there and breathe and call back your energy and visualize like wherever it has kind of left you, or wherever your attention has been placed in the last, I don't know, 48 hours or even a week or a year, whatever time frame, and just say, across all these situations, I'm going to call back all my energy and visualize it coming back to like from conversations you've had, maybe arguments, maybe just inner judgments happening. Wherever you've placed your attention, just call it back. Wow, that is powerful. I've never so quickly felt back and so confident and strong and contained than when I've done those meditations. I think I'll do one today. That's a reminder, because I have been feeling that with this headachiness. They've kind of coincided, this feeling of like not quite in my center. And I think I'm going to do that after we hang up here. Hang up. So anyway, let me not forget my function. My function is just to come into acceptance, because from acceptance, the light of the world can shine in and out. That's it. Took a long while to get there, but that's the basics. Thanks for witnessing this. I didn't want to do it in hiding because of that perfectionism. Like, oh, I got to keep my streak of no coffee, no caffeine at all. It was a hard week of headaches when I detoxed. And so I guess I'm a little bit worried, just like vulnerability time, coffee talk. I'm a little bit worried that by even doing 1 cup, I'm going to have to go through a week of headaches again. That's just how brutal caffeine is for me. So I'm a little bit worried about that. So I just want to name it. I love when people say, I just want to name that, or thank you for naming that. I actually say too, I really love it. It honors like, oh my God, we were all thinking it. Thank you for naming that. Or we didn't think of it, but oh my God, thank you for naming that. Just like bringing that into the group's awareness. I love that trend of saying that nowadays. I hear it a lot. It's like, it's powerful. So thank you for witnessing this and listening to my vulnerabilities and being along this ride with me. If you have been along on the Course in Miracles, I've seen a little bit of content out there on YouTube about it, and they're more like teachers teaching what each lesson means. But to me, I'm not a teacher. I just wanted a way to express how I feel about it, because journaling, it wasn't as immediate. It doesn't feel as real, as raw. And so that's why I'm doing all these videos, but especially like the Course in Miracles, I just feel like I don't know what I think or believe about something until it comes out of my mouth. And then I'm like, oh yeah, that's what I really think. So yeah, thanks for letting me explain that. So hopefully it's like going along the journey together. If you're doing this together, or if you pop in on a lesson, I don't want it to seem like I'm teaching, because I'm not. Sometimes I might sound confident just because of my own healing journey I've been through. Like, oh yeah, I know how I got to this. I had to go through a lot of that, but it's really, I'm still just a little wee baby student of this. And I learned something even through these reviews of lessons. They hit different each time. So I could do this. I even said a while back, I could just start this over every year. Just every January 1st. Let's just go through it again. And it would hit different. And it's such a good practice to keep dissolving the ego, coming back to love, coming back to our center. Who wouldn't want to do this? I know it's couched in I don't want to use that word. I don't even know what it means really, but it's a lot of people are averse to it because of the biblical nature of it. If you are religious averse, which I have been most of my life, like religiosity I'm averse to, but spirituality, all about tapping into that higher wisdom. And this is a way to that. It's just channeled from the energy that is Jesus, which is, if you'd have to go deep into the rabbit hole of channeling, but it's like we can all tap into other energies of these people who walk the earth who are no longer here, and kind of pull in their energy to support us. And that's what this book is doing, just channeled from Jesus, like the way he's like, this is what I really meant by what I said. They got it wrong in the Bible. Somewhat wrong. This is what I really intended. And so that's what I appreciate, because in the Bible, I've always felt that way. I'm just like, really? Really? A lot of the Psalms I love, but the interpretations of things, but this just is like all love, all light. Would Jesus have been any other way? I think not. So anyway, I gotta stop talking. See, the caffeine's already kicking in. Okay, thanks for being here, guys. Have a great week.